I'm thrilled to have Adele Lashbrook with us today. Adele is a partner of the Select Group, working with Cisco up in New York. We're thrilled to have her with us, and I appreciate the connections internally within TSG, getting Adele on board to host our Women in Technology webinar for this quarter. For those of you who are new to the Select Group, my name is Lee Wallace Dodd. I'm Manager of Workforce Development, and I am here to make sure that all of you have access to the tools and resources that you need to be successful in your role. I will be sending out a brief survey after the call. I'll also include Adele's slides and a recording of the call as soon as it becomes available. If any of you have questions or suggestions, things that we can do to further enhance your experience in your relationship with the Select Group, please let us know. We're always open to your recommendations. As Adele goes through the presentation today, I encourage you to utilize the chat feature. Please throw in some questions as you have them. Feel free to take yourself off mute if you have a question. And of course, there will be time for Q&A at the end of the call as well. With all of that said, Adele, I'm going to turn things over to you. The floor is all yours.
Thank you. And thank you, Lee Wallace, so much for having me today. I appreciate it. As Lee said, I'm Adele Ashbrook. I'm a leader over program and project management at Cisco, focus on public sector, state, local, and education area in the U.S. I have a team of 12, 13 people right now, all very talented PMs, all different levels. I love really working with the early and career folks, right, and helping them see their potential and worth, helping them to get the right training on self-awareness and the tools to get to that next level. That was not something that I had really when I started out, and wish I had, because it may have helped promote me kind of quicker than I did, right? So first, I want everybody to have pen and paper handy, because I'm hoping you'll get some ideas. You'll be able to write some things down while we're talking. Feel free, like Lee Wallace said, to put some questions in the chat as we go along. So as I said, a lot of my team is early in career, and a lot of them are women as well. And what I love about working with them is being able to help promote and support them in a world where, I didn't get that starting out. So when Lee Wallace asked me today to do this presentation and tying it into women's equality, I told her it would be so easy to show that connection. So I'm going to start off with that, right? In 1872, Susan B. Anthony went to the polls in Western New York, and she cast a ballot for the presidential election, right? She was arrested, fined, and it took about 40 years until the 19th Amendment was signed, allowing women to vote. But there was a woman that worked alongside her. Her name was Elizabeth Cady Stanton. She was actually born and raised in my hometown, and the picture you see right here is of her sitting on a bench. It was just actually put up this week, which is very cool. So together, these two women led the charge for women's equality, right? So women get less reward for equal work. I know we've all heard that, right? With over 50% of the population being women, only 8% are Fortune 500 company CEOs. And women still are earning 82 cents for every dollar that a man earns, right? And then when COVID hit, you saw a lot of women stop working, right? They were staying home to take care of their families, and a lot of them were laid off more than men were, right? So it's unfortunate. So with gender norms, the expectations that women should be modest, and women should, they feel uncomfortable with the prospect of self-promotion. But it's kind of a catch-22, right? You can't be modest and promote yourself at the same time. So I want to talk about bragging. I want to talk about it, and this is not just from a woman's perspective, it's from everybody's perspective, right? How do you get others to see your accomplishments? How do you get promotions, that attention that you deserve, and the investments that the companies can make into you? So again, promoting yourself, bragging, because usually bragging is a negative term. I try to use it as a more positive term. It's not something most people are used to doing. So think about it. Do you feel underestimated? Do you think people don't really know what you've accomplished or understand what you do? when is the last time you really took credit for a job well done without giving props, let's say, to somebody else, or you shy away from the praise, or shifting to the recognition of somebody else other than yourself, such as, oh, wow, what a great job. And you go, oh, yeah, it was the team. Well, you were part of that team and you did something incredible as part of that team. So the top thing I write up on here is that you are amazing and I want everybody to know it. So tell yourself this every day, how amazing you are. Put it on your mirror. I have Post-its on the side of my monitor that have, positive sayings. Put it there. Remind yourself, especially when you're having one of those rough days, what you can do and what you're great at. So bragging is to talk about your best self, your interests, your ideas, your accomplishments with pride and passion in a conversational manner intended to excite admiration, interest, and wonder without pretense or overstatement. So this is actually very critical in being hired, promoted, and making more money. So there's some myths about, bragging, right? So simply performing well at work and, helping others doesn't get you the recognition you deserve. So your boss could be gone tomorrow, your coworkers could be gone tomorrow. You need to speak up. You have to do things such as have skip level meetings, talk to your manager's manager, go out there and talk to other people that are important in the organization. I was just talking to somebody about promotions here, and they were asking me, well, do you know so-and-so? And do you know this person who's another, manager? Give them a call, talk to them. As awkward as it may sound, think if somebody called you and talked to you and was telling you all about them, you might be like, oh, wow, I could use them on my team, or this is a great person to get to know and learn from. Think of it that way. That's something you can do yourself. A lot of people think that bragging is something you only do during your performance reviews. Well, yeah, you're going to do it then, but that doesn't have to be the only time you do it. Be your best self at all times. You never know when a relationship will develop. So be prepared to speak about yourself, your accomplishments at any point in time. The next myth is, people will do it for me. I don't have to tell anything about myself. Wouldn't that be great if that were really the truth, right? The only person you can truly count on for that is yourself. Make sure you know that. And I only did it because of the people on my team, and that's what I brought up before. Don't get me wrong, it's great to promote your team and those working alongside of you. There was a study that found that women who work with men are far less likely to take credit for their work than women who work with other women, right? So it's a habit. Start to learn about talking about your team, yes, but what you did as part of that team. You can learn great things together, you can come together, but you had a part in that success. Take the credit for it. So how can you do this? You need to create a strategy for self-promotion. So the higher you climb, the more that's expected of you. You're responsible for more, but you still need to share what you've accomplished. Make sure you say this with grace and impact. Impact is a very big word, right? You don't want to say, hey, I'm a project manager, right? You need to have a story about yourself and how to present that to other people so that they want more. Have them wanting to ask you more about who you are and what you do and the excitement about that. And don't be afraid. Get out there, talk to people, focus on introductions. Those first few minutes, that's what is key, right? So you get out there and you meet somebody, and if it starts off on a bad foot, you might be able to recover, but prepare for those first few minutes with people. And yeah, this is going to be hard work. And the key word here is work, right? So one of the books I've read about bragging is called Bragging Better. It's by Meredith Feynman. She calls it the qualified quiet. It's a group of highly competent people who are underestimated because they don't have that strategy for self-promotion. They think their work will speak for themselves, right? But unfortunately, it does not. So how do we keep track? People call it different things. I call it a brag book. There are brag sheets. There are brag whatever, right? But there's different ways that you can keep track of it. So it can be anything from a physical notebook, piece of paper. It could be a Word document, Excel. I love OneNote. I like to keep it in the different categories. Whatever it is, just do it, right? Yeah, these are great for yearly reviews. I actually have somebody that she keeps a Word document, and at the end of the year, when she knows it's time for the reviews, she sends me her Word document. And I was like, this is perfect. This is wonderful. Because unfortunately, you don't remember. I don't remember pretty much what I did last month, let alone 10 months ago, right? Some of the items you can keep in there are work awards. So does your company provide something special to recognize you? Testimonials and thank you messages. So one thing I do with my team is I ask them, hey, if you get an email stating you did an amazing job on this project or this event, send it to me. Just forward me that email. Send me a discussion you have, and I keep that. I use that. Plus, again, how am I going to know unless they let me know? Letters of recommendation. LinkedIn is a great place for that. And you don't have to be looking for a job to go ahead and get those recommendations. You can just press a little button and ask some people to provide some info on you. And you never know, even if you're not looking for something, somebody may come back to you. That's how I landed this job. Somebody came to me and said, hey, I saw you live, near Albany and you're in project management. We could really use someone. Best decision I was ever able to make. Any new skills you've learned, different trainings, so leadership courses, any type of new applications. We just did some interview training at my company, right? So even if you might think it's minuscule, it's something that may port over if you go to another assignment somewhere else. I've taken a lot of leadership courses through eCornell. I cannot recommend them enough. I think they're really wonderful. All that kind of stuff really shows up. Initiatives, stretch assignments, look for those things at work. You never know what they have going on, right? Get to know people, actively participate, get them to know your name. And volunteering and community impact. When I worked at a different company, we had a certain number of hours that we could use for giving back to our community. Nobody promoted it, nothing. They do that here now. Not only do you feel fulfilled about what you've been able to do, but you see the impact that it makes on your company because you represent them. So it's a great win either way. And then I'm a math geek, so I love statistics too. So anything you're doing with, amount of money that you're working with or number of people that you've placed or different things, keep track of that, show the growth, show percentage, show fractions, whatever. It's a great thing to keep track of. So what I want everybody to do right now is, if you haven't been already, is take that pen and paper and write down some items that you want to put in your brag book based off of some of these. I think this is a great tool to start with. And hopefully when Lee Wallace sends out that slide set, it can help you. I'm going to put people on the spot here, but does anybody have anything that they can think of that they would want to add to their brag book? And this is, by the way, a really good place to start. It may feel uncomfortable, but it's a really good way to start.
I will go, Adele.
Thank you.
Well, first off, thank you, Adele, for joining. I actually get the pleasure of working with Adele at her company, so I'm really excited for you to be here. I started a brag book after you told me about this because I think I was having a quarter business review with my management, and I literally could not think of one single thing that I did positive, which was so crazy that we have to give like things we did well and things we didn't do so well. And I could think of 1,000 things I did wrong, but not 1,000 things I did right. So I love my brag book now. I have definitely started this. I actually got a compliment on a select group process that I do well from one of my peers. And it actually meant a lot to me because she took the time to write me back and say that she really appreciated all of the hard work that I put into this certain process. So I literally took a little snippet of that, put it on my brag book, and I look forward to sharing it in my next QBR.
I love that. That's awesome. And congrats. Anybody else? I don't put you on the spot.
I'll tell, thanks for inviting me, Adele. I'm Kelly Harmony, and I'm actually maybe a little on the other side of this. I'm actually a recruiter. I recruit more in the medical and pharmaceutical industry, but I can speak to the need for having a brag book. And a lot of times folks, like for instance, any of those emails that you might get for, Atta Girls, anything like that. Some folks send those to their personal emails because you never know when you might be a victim, and you are found without work and you have no access to your email anymore. So, just a quick forward to your personal email that you will always have access to. It's just a suggestion of something you might consider doing just on the fly.
Awesome. Thank you. It's a really good idea. I'm one of those pen and paper people, so I have it right here. All right, I'm going to continue on. I won't go through all of these here, but there's another lady, Peggy Klaus, that wrote a book about bragging as well. And she has this self-evaluation questionnaire. So, asks you more things to add to your brag book, things to know about yourself when speaking to others. So things like these 5 personality pluses. What are some adjectives that you would use to describe yourself? So these are things you want to have handy and available for yourself. Another thing that's not listed here is create a vision or mission statement for yourself, right? What is it that you want to accomplish for yourself? And use that as a goal to find items that you can do to then add to your brag book. So how do we do this, right? So first, be sincere, right? When you're talking about it, you don't have to go like, I did this, right? You just be sincere, share what you've done, and tell a story about it. People want to hear a really good story. Stay on point, make it brief, but tell them the background to that. Have a good first impression too, like more of a tell me about yourself, like we talked about before. So people want to know more about you, and be prepared. I'll be honest, I'm not happy with my tell me about yourself first impression story. So that's something I've been working on in the background. I'm having a heck of a time, but I want to be prepared. I want to be able to go out and somebody says, what do you do? I don't know what you do, right? And I can share that and let people know who I am and what my background is. Places you can do this too is in your one-on-one. So with your manager, like I said, skip level meetings, anybody that really you think would benefit from knowing who you are. Yearly reviews, bi-yearly reviews, corporate functions. I know sometimes they're not really the most fun, but showing up, having your presence and your name out there is a really good thing. And speak up. And that doesn't necessarily mean with your voice. Use things such as social media, LinkedIn, for example, right? Go out there and post and share your stories and get people to notice and understand what you're all about. So show your audience what you can do rather than just broadcasting them to them. Show them examples of your work and the results that you've achieved. That was from one of the books that I read, and that's just stuck with me. So, you don't only have to talk about it, but to show them. I had created something here, which I'm very proud of, a communication tool with one of our customers. Anybody wants to look at it, I'm just there and I'm going to show them. I'm like, here it is. Whether you want to look at it or not, here it is, because I'm proud of myself. And I've learned that, you can talk a talk, but when you show them, that's when it really makes a difference. Talked a little bit about it before, just real quick. I had an Excel sheet that I was keeping things in. I ended up categorizing it, right? And that was a way to find out more of what I wanted to do. So let's say, I really wanted to branch out and speak more. And I've only got 2 things in there, right? And I've got like 10 in each of the other columns or something, right? This gives me an opportunity to say, hey, this is something, a goal of mine that I want to do more of. Keep these updated frequently. I was keeping it updated, like at the end of every day. It would be kind of like a daily download for me and say what I've done, like on a piece of paper, and then I'd compile it and put it in my notes after about a week. It was proving to be too much for me. So maybe weekly, monthly, just so you don't forget things. And details, keep track of dates, names. Sometimes you look at something and you're like, what does that mean? One of the things I really love using is, and they have these are from Inkwell Press. Everybody's got their own little things, but I love paper. I think Kim and I were having this conversation the other day. I'm like a paper freak. So at the bottom or at the top, it's like today's accomplishments, and I write them down just because I love it. Some people like nice, shiny programs. It's just something to put the information on. It reminds me to do it. I see here, I posted something, somebody created a bullet journal and they made it all pretty and they put in their information. Whatever excites you enough to make you keep track, do it. Another thing, keep track of things outside of work too. We talked about volunteering, but if there's other stuff you've done, keep that in there as well. It's, you never know when you might need it. The last thing I want to talk about is confidence. Confidence is what makes you shine. And a lot of times, you can have those days or those times where it's just really hard to feel that confidence. But you know what's great is you take that brag book on one of those days and you look through it and you're like, wow, I'm doing awesome. I'm really amazing at what I do. So it'll help boost that. And, evaluate, was this meaning and valuable? Was this the correct scope of what I wanted to do? Is this the right time to brag? If you feel so, then go ahead and do it. You're here for a reason. You're at your company, you're in your job because people want you there. So it's good to go ahead and promote yourself. And definitely don't undersell yourself. You have something that you're bringing to the table. Make sure you notice it, keep track of it, and share it. And then just a couple of references I have here. I loved both these books. I couldn't figure out which one I liked more. They both are different, but I highly recommend either of them. You can also find videos of both these ladies speaking on the subject. There's also a couple of different sites here. There's something called Pep Talk Her. It's an app for your phone, and you can keep track of different accomplishments you've made. So if you didn't want to use a piece of paper or an Excel file or whatever, you can use this app and keep track. I put an article in here. It's surprising how much is actually out there. I mean, if you just look into bragging, you can find so many different things about it and ways of keeping track and what you should keep track of. And again, there's an accomplishment tracker I found out there. I love to just find something fun and new that I can just keep my ideas in. Anyways, just encourage you to go with it, to keep track of it, and I really hope it helps people progress in their careers and in their overall joy of what they do. So thank you for listening, and if there's any questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Adele. I've got some great notes and was starting to jot down some things to start a brag book for me. I think one of the things I'm curious about is if you could share a little bit of your experience of, I guess, real examples when you felt like that you did a good job of bragging. Like, what was that end result? How did you know it was the right moment to bring up, like, hey, here's something that I did really well? And then maybe on the flip side, when was an opportunity or a time that you felt that you didn't do as good of a job at tooting your own horn as you should have?
So I actually, you got to read the room, and that's something you got to learn to do, right? So if you can read the room and see, is this a good time? Is this not a good time, right? With my manager, for example, I wait usually till our one-on-ones when something good happens. If it's something major, I'll ping him right away and be like, guess, I recently won this award at work, and I pinged him. I'm like, oh my gosh, and that was an immediate thing. But normally I just like wait for our one-on-ones. I bring it up. I let him know. I'll show him and let it be out there. And I'm fortunate. Now I have a manager who is great at sharing above that. But if you don't, schedule those skip level meetings. And not only is that a great way for you to get to know somebody else, but it's a good way to share some of the things that you know and what you can do to help. A time where I didn't. So when I was younger and I was working in a company where there were a lot of, it was a good old boys network, to be honest with you. And I didn't know any better, and I didn't share. And I wasn't moving anywhere. I wasn't getting any promotions. I wasn't getting anything, any new work. It was terrible. But I knew I could do it. I believed a lot of what they told me, which was not very positive. I ended up moving to another organization and immediately was bumped way up. And it's still in my head sometimes what was said to me when I worked for that other group. I really wish I'd have used my voice, or I really wished I would have done more to showcase what I knew and what I could do. So just don't underestimate yourself. That's all I can say.
Thank you for sharing that. Is there anyone else who has questions? I know we've got some time here with Adele. Feel free to pop it in the chat or unmute your line.
Hi, Adele. My name's Kathy Howe. Yes. I have a question. I manage a team, and we do quarterly reviews, and it's more of a brag book kind of thing, but I call it quarterly reviews to get them to feel like they have to do it. But some people really struggle to, like, even in the private one-on-one meetings that I have with them, they really struggle to share those accomplishments, and we put them in writing, and just, for reasons you just described. I don't remember what I had, for lunch yesterday, let alone what I might have accomplished at work 10 months ago. So getting these things jotted down is pretty critical. But boy, people really struggle with recognizing what they did and bragging. Do you have any tips on how to kind of get people more comfortable with that? An example I can give is I have a couple people on my team who they can give you the checklist of their accomplishments, the things that they did, but I want to know why it was important and how it added value. So, and it doesn't have to be statistical, although I like numbers too. Like give me a chart and a graph and show me how you saved the firm money. But do you have any tips for how you kind of get people more comfortable with bragging for themselves?
Yeah, that's definitely difficult. I have a few still on my team that are that way. It hasn't always worked. There's some people, unfortunately, that it's going to be difficult to do that. But with some, during our one-on-ones, I would talk to them, okay, what'd you do this week? And I coach them through it, right? So I'm like, oh, well, you did X. That's awesome, right? So how, does that mean, like, let's say they led a project maintenance window, for example, and it went perfectly, right? Wow, we haven't had any perfect windows in a while, have we? No. What did you do different? Okay. So how is the customer sentiment? How is this? It's a lot of coaching and me getting them to talk them through it. And I'm like, wow, you did blah, 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 right? And this is the impact that it had. I'm like, you need to write that down. And I will write it down in my notes so that I have it for my team members. But I've been really trying to work with my team on, you need to send that to me. You need to share that with me. You need to write this down. And this is what you did. A lot of them, I don't think, realize that it's anything special, right? They think, I'm just doing my job. And sometimes they are, but not everybody can do that job. So I think a lot of it is just some coaching with them and trying to walk. You know, it takes us some time as a manager, but it's that walking and talking through it with them.
Thank you.
Sure. That's a great question, though. I also wonder what else I can do for my team, but that's where I'm starting anyway.
All right. I don't see any additional questions. Adele, I really appreciate your time today, and I really appreciate everyone joining the call. As I mentioned, I'll be sharing the PowerPoint and the recording as well as the survey link. Would love to hear from everyone on their thoughts with this presentation and thoughts on additional presentations you guys would like to see in the future. At this time, we can go ahead and wrap things up unless there's any remaining questions. Don't see anything coming through on my end. But again, Adele, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate all of our key takeaways here.
Yeah, thank you everyone for coming and listening. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Adele. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Adele.
Bye, guys.
Bye.